Welcome to the Data and AI Summit, folks. It's nice to see you all. This is our forward-looking statement. We really appreciate your feedback, so at the end of the talk, please take a few minutes to give us feedback. We really appreciate it. And with that, let's get into third-party ingestion. So we'll talk about ingesting data from a third-party system into the lakehouse. But a lot of the learnings from this talk will be applicable generally towards all ingestion. We'll talk about some of the tools that we used at Databricks to do ingestion right, but we'll also talk about platformization, how to do it such that every ingestion at your company happens the right way. Okay? So a quick show of hands, how many of you have worked on any form of ingestion? Like almost all of us, right? It's a very common thing. Now let's kick it up a notch. How many of you had customers complain that the data is not available on time? Yeah, quite a few of us. And how many of you were the last to find out that the data was delayed? Right? These are times when you're supposed to go out for dinner with your significant other, you get pinged. It's not fun. This is the worst of the worst, the last one. How many of you accidentally ingested PII, or worse, even secrets, into the lakehouse? It's a very shy crowd. And bonus points if it triggered a security incident. The myth is data ingestion is all about moving data from some source system into a destination, like a data lake. But that is farther from the truth, right? So let's take a scenario. Say a VP of sales at your company comes to you and says, I have this treasure trove of data in Salesforce. Please bring it into the lakehouse. I want to analyze it. You would say, this is very simple. I can write a script, maybe in Python. I can bring the data in. It takes me 2 days, tops, right? Really easy. So you bring the data in. And then what happens? The salesperson likes you now. They come to you after 2 weeks. They want another table. And you tell them, oh yeah, it's a script, it's a list somewhere, I'll add it to the YAML file, it'll flow in. Great, it flows in. On a Friday evening, they ping you. Data is not available. We have a weekly business review on Monday, and because of you, we can't do the weekly business review. The data is not here yet. You didn't sign up for this, right? All you thought was, I'm doing this guy a favor. Turns out the whole company's weekly business review now runs on your data. Happens all the time. It starts very simple. The V0 is always easy to build. It's much, much harder to build something that actually scales. And this has been our journey at Databricks. We made the same mistake. Got the data in, wrote some scripts, things broke after a while. So we'll quickly introduce ourselves. My name is Krishna. I'm a senior manager at Databricks on the data platform team. I've been at some big tech firms like Airbnb and Amazon. I've spent around 7 or 8 years there. And most of my colleagues tell me that I have a 7-year itch because I tend to leave after 7 years. And with that, I'll call on Prashant to quickly introduce himself.
Thank you. Hey folks, myself Prashant. I'm a senior developer at Databricks. And what I mostly focus on is bringing third-party data into our lakehouse. And my focus has been try to do it in a way that it acts as a platform, or I at least try to do this. In my past life, I've worked at Google, in data platform there as well, where I was trying to unify a lot of massive data sets and try to drive AI-driven insights on top of it. So yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Prashant. So both of us are on the data platform team at Databricks, and our team is responsible for building the data intelligent platform. So we are a very cross-functional org. We work with a bunch of business teams, marketing, sales, HR, engineering, product. And our responsibility is to bring data ingested into the lakehouse. We build a bunch of tools like Metric Store to actually process the data, and we build a lot of processing layers after that, all in the service of actually driving insights into our business. Now let's get into it. So let's start at the very beginning. We call this the Stone Age. We didn't have a lot of tools during this time. During this time, when ingestion was done, we would just actually write a script and get the data into the lakehouse. We had a few issues during this time, or rather a few features of this time. The first is that of rudimentary tools. We would write scripts in notebooks. We would check it into Git. and that would actually, and schedule it, and then that would get the data into the lakehouse. The thing that happened was there was a complete lack of standards. Let's take an example. So how would we manage passwords or tokens, let's say? If you want to connect to a SaaS tool, you need a token. Where do you save it? Sometimes we would put it in notebooks. Sometimes even check it into Git, right? Very, very few of us actually use Databricks secrets. Right? This is a very common thing. When you start off, you tend to do these kind of things. You're in a hurry, you tend to do these things, right? And multiply this across teams at Databricks, like every team was doing this. And we were all in silos. This was before Unity Catalog, so we did not have a discovery layer. So what that meant is multiple teams were bringing in data multiple times, and the learnings that, like, let's say one team had about ingestion, it was never transferred over to other teams. So there were a lot of bad practices, and even like it was very hard to like arrive at good practices and arrive at consensus across multiple groups. So the first issue that we had during this time was that of quality. And I'll drive home the point through an example. So Salesforce data was one of the popular data sets. And with this, we had multiple teams actually asking for tokens to Salesforce. Multiple teams were bringing the data in. And what happens when you do that? You start hitting API limits, right? We were constantly hitting API limits. The second thing with Salesforce, if some of you have worked on it, has this thing called SOQL fields or formula fields. These fields actually do not refresh when you do an incremental refresh. And all of us are told, only do incremental refreshes. But with Salesforce, if you do an incremental refresh, the data is not refreshed for those formula fields. So you would get things wrong all the time. The third one is that of secret management. As I said, some of them in notebooks, some of them in Git. Hardly anybody used Databricks secrets. So quality was a real problem. The second issue was that of observability. Some teams had PagerDuty set up, some teams had SLAs set up. Most of the teams did not even have anything. It was all Friday night pings, right? My data is not available. The third was that of discoverability. This was pre-Unity Catalog, which basically meant we did not know what was in the lakehouse. So a lot of times people would get same copies of the data multiple times, right? So we had three issues, and how did we solve it? The first one, we moved to Unity Catalog. If you haven't used Unity Catalog, it basically is a tool that Databricks provides. It gives you centralized access control. It gives you auditing. It gives you a lot of lineage across your data assets, and it provides data discovery, so you can actually search for things in your catalog. With Unity Catalog, the issue that we had with discoverability was like taken care of, right? The second tool that we used was Lakeflow Connect. Lakeflow Connect is a UI-based tool through which you can set up connectors. It already has connectors to a lot of the popular SaaS tools, like Salesforce, for example, or NetSuite, and it also has connectors to things like S3 and stuff like that. So with this, you did not have to write scripts anymore. So the issue that we had with quality on the first slide when I explained that was not there anymore. So once we adopted these two tools, what happened was our engineers didn't have to be Neo from the Matrix dodging bullets. Right? Things were much simpler. They would go to the UI, set things up. They could discover things through Unity Catalog, and things worked pretty well. So on the right-hand side, you'll see a screenshot of how Lakeflow Connect looks like. This brought us into the Bronze Age. Things were slightly better. We now had some tools. We had some trading going on. The tools in this case are Unity Catalog, right, and Lakeflow Connect. So folks could go to these tools, get the data in. Things were much better. So we had built-in connectors. We had efficient ingestion. Things were looking good. So we asked ourselves, are we done? Right? Ingestion seems to be done, right? We're moving data in. It's super efficient. Unfortunately, the answer is no. The thing that happened was our legal team was getting constantly bombarded by requests to review the data. Because for us, legal team has to approve before the data can show up in the lakehouse. So they were getting questions about, oh, does my data have PII? Does it have phone numbers? Does it have emails? Does it have secrets? We made ingestion so easy that the legal team was getting overwhelmed. We had to find a solution. So we had two issues during this, two new issues that came up. The first one was that of PII leaks. Let's take an example. Let's say your friendly VP comes back to you now, right? He says, oh, now you have this Lakeflow Connect. Things are much easier. Get me case comments. Right? In Salesforce, case comments is the data set that has all of your cases and the comments from those cases. That could have PII, it could have emails, it could have passwords, it could have a bunch of stuff. So this was an issue. How do we detect that there's PII in our data? The second one was that of sensitive data leakage. So let's take another example. So this often happens when you try to get data sets like Jira. Let's say you use your internal Jira system to actually set up tokens for like different systems. Usually those are added to comments. Bring the data in the lakehouse, you kind of leaked secrets now, right? So you've solved the ingestion problem, now you got the compliance problem to solve. We did two things to solve this. The first one is we used data classification. Data classification is an offering by Databricks that you could set on top of your catalog, and it automatically scans the data in the tables within that catalog, and it tags them with one of the 12 categories that you see on the right. I have a subset of them, but there are a few more. The reason this is very powerful is because it doesn't use regexes like a lot of other tools. It goes to Unity catalog, reads through the documentation, figures out the context, and then uses an LLM in the background to categorize data. It's actually pretty accurate. The next issue, if you remember, was that of secrets. For this, we actually worked with our trust and safety engineering team to develop a tool that actually can detect secrets. And so you'll see an example here. This is actually a case comment where the first one, that's not a real token, by the way. The first one is a token, the second one is when it gets redacted. Right? So those were the two tools that we used, the data classification and the secret redaction, to handle the compliance problem. Here's a screenshot on your left of the data that came in without any tags. The one on the right, you'll see the tags across some of the columns. Right? It auto does that. Now you can make a decision as a company what you want to do with it. Right? You'll have a way to deal with it. Will you redact it? Will you do something else? Will you completely drop the field? Right? You can take actions based on that. And with this, we went to the next stage. We call this the Iron Age. Right? We had defenses around our data sets. We knew what was coming in. Our legal team was slightly happier, right, that we were compliant. And to walk us through the Iron Age and what came after and how we actually platformized the whole thing, I'll call on Prashant.
All right. Thanks a lot, Krishna. So folks, you have now gone through all the ages till now. I'll walk you through what happens after this. So this was the age where we started to get a lot more serious. We were no longer just ingesting data. We were securing it, organizing it, and effectively laying down the groundwork to scale safely after this. When we reached Iron Age, one of the questions that we asked ourselves was, hey, is this where we want to be? Is this the final place? And there were three things that we considered at this point of time. First, we had a single source of truth. No longer 5 different teams ingesting the same data 5 different ways. You now had one owner, you now had one pipeline, and effectively one trusted version. Second, your ingestion was by default observable and reliable. With Lakehouse monitoring and Lakeflow in picture, you had alerts, you had lineage, you had the whole package. And after that, compliance was baked in. With data classification library and secret redaction in place, we were no longer just hoping that secrets don't creep in. We were actively catching and controlling it. So this did feel like a good package, right? And what that means for you is, hey, is the stock over? Sadly, no. We still had some struggles. Because the truth is that just having clean and classified data isn't really enough. What you also want to make sure is that not everyone should have access to all of it. So this is where we wanted to solve the visibility problem. And how we did it? We basically used something called as attribute-based access control. For those of you who are not familiar with what ABAC is, I'll try to give a very, very quick overview. ABAC, or attribute-based access control, is a private preview product of Databricks that allows data governance administrator to define broad data policies that are still very flexible and precise. So you no longer have to go to each table and define your policies and define your filters. You could define a policy once and then use govern tags to apply that policy over schema or even over entire catalog. And then ABAC would make sure that these policies are applied correctly on the tables and columns of your choosing. As soon as you turn A back on, all operations on your data assets are logged immediately and are available in real time into Databricks audit log. So how did ABAC work? There are two things that we needed for ABAC to work. The first one is user attributes. What exactly are user attributes? Think of user attributes as characteristics of your user, not just who the user is, but also what a user in a very specific context. For example, what their role is, what the region they are working in, what their clearance level is. Once you have user attribute, the second thing that we need to worry about is row level filters. This is effectively saying that you don't want to show all of your table to everyone, but only a subset of rows. And once you have user attributes combined with row level filters, what you get is ABAC. ABAC combines user characteristics like their role, their region, their level, with the row level filters that you want to define using SQL-based functions, and then can make sure that folks only see the data that they're supposed to, not the global data set. Now, I would like to remind that for those of you who are keen on using ABAC, ABAC works best when it is tied with Unity Catalog, because ABAC works on top of governed tags, which you get out of Unity Catalog. So for ABAC to work seamlessly, you need to be on Unity Catalog. So once we had this in place, this is where we were able to get to. On the left-hand side, you have the opportunity table where you see the data for all the regions. This was the world before ABAC. Once you applied the ABAC policy, the one you see on the right-hand side, on the top, there what you're doing is you're defining a function that restricts your data to only Europe region. As soon as you do that, what happens after that is your employees, when they try to query this opportunity data, they would only see the data for the region that they are in. And when we did that, we reached our next stage. We call it the modern age of data ingestion. This is where we are privacy first, we have lightning fast data ingestion, and we are also ready for any scale without breaking a sweat. So what made modern age truly modern? There were three things. Do you remember the initial struggle in our Stone Age? We had the issue of quality, we had the issue of observability and discoverability. All of that was solved through Lakeflow Connect, the backbone of our entire ingestion. It's no longer just about pulling data. It's about doing it in a way that is secure, scalable, and you no longer have to write endless code to do it. Next, in the Bronze Age, we had issue of compliance. We solved that through data classification and secret redaction library. This dual approach made sure that secrets don't creep into your lakehouse, and the compliance was always front and center. After that, in Iron Age, we had these two issues resolved, but we had the issue of data visibility. Everyone could see all the data that we had. So to solve this, what we needed was attribute-based access control on top of Unity Catalog. This made sure that our teams only see the data that they're supposed to do their job efficiently. No more, no less. And now we are here. You've gone through our entire journey, where we were and where we are now. And now I would like to kick it up a notch. Let's talk about creating platforms. I'm about to show you how our Databricks data platform team used all of these tools to create a unified platform that was secure, scalable, and ready for anything. And trust me, this is where the magic happens. This is where all of your complexities turn into simplicity and your toughest challenges into your biggest wins. Introducing third-party ingestion platform, a no-code platform that we developed right here at Databricks for our internal use case to bring all of the Databricks tools that you already love under one umbrella. So effectively, third-party ingestion platform is an abstraction on top of all the three things that you saw in modern age. It effectively bundles everything together to make sure that you have a platform that all of your teams can reuse. Now, you're here. I'll walk you through the entire end-to-end user journey of how third-party ingestion works. It starts with ingestion config. Think of this as a blueprint of your ingestion. You define 3 things. First, your upstream. Where do you want to get your data from? Salesforce. Second, your downstream. Where do you want to get your data to? Your data lake. And finally, your consumers, who should be seeing all of this data. As soon as you write a blueprint, we move to the next stage. Third-party ingestion would kick off an automated legal review. We would scan your data and classify it and send it for compliance review so that you know that you're compliant before you move forward. Once you are done with compliance, we would automatically validate your config, make sure everything is in the right place, do canary testing to catch any issues early on, and automatically deploy your ingestion at a frequency of your own choosing. Once your changes are deployed, automated orchestration takes over. This is where we run our upstream sync using Lakeflow Connect. We run data quality checks, scan your data for PII and secret, and finally run ACL and ABAC on top of it to make sure that folks see the right data. All of this combined together is what creates third-party ingestion, a tool that is widely used across all the businesses in Databricks, including marketing, go-to-market sales, IT data, even engineering. And this allows them to collaborate seamlessly. And since you've seen what the end-to-end user journey looks like, I'll give you a quick peek under the hood on how the architecture works. I would explain this in 3 very simple steps. As soon as the 3PI job begins, it would trigger the Lakeflow Connect pipeline so that your SaaS data can get into your data lake, and it would wait for that pipeline to complete. Once the ingestion completes, the data lands into an intermediate catalog. And this part is really, really important. Let me walk you through why. Consider this as the staging area where we do all the heavy lifting. We would run data quality checks to make sure your data is exactly what you want to be. We would filter data by doing row filterings. We would do column transformations over here. More importantly, one of the things that we do at this stage is we tag all of our data through a taxonomy that is standard across Databricks. And why is that important? Because attribute-based access control is only as good as the data that it runs on, the characteristics of data that it runs on. So as long as you can make sure that you have a narrow funnel through which you can tag all of your data, you know that if someone defines a policy, that would work correctly. Once you have this clean classified data in an intermediate catalog, we now promote it to main catalog so that folks can read this data. While doing that, we would run PII checks on it and do secret reduction so that you have the right data and you know that it doesn't have any PII that it should not have. After that, you would simply apply ABAC rules and then have right ACL checks on top of it. So now you know this. You remember when I said, hey, this is supposed to be a no-code platform? You should not have to write a single line of code to ingest data from any SaaS system. I'll show you how that works. I'll take you through the guts of a typical 3PI config. I'll divide this into 3 parts. First up, connector config. This is where we specify how your data gets in. For example, on line number 1, you see that we are ingesting data from Salesforce. After that, we specify where exactly your data should go into. For example, here we want to land data into main.sfdc bronze catalog. You can define your own schedule. You could choose to run it at every hour, every day, or anything, as long as that is a cron expression. Remember, the goal of a platform is to make sure that it is easier for folks to do the right thing. If you see line number 6, folks can very easily specify how they want to ingest data. In this case, as soon as they write their sync type to be an incremental sync, we would make sure that we are not being greedy and ingesting all the data every time. We only get the new shining bits. And it's not really about folks can't do it. It's about we give them the tools so that they can do it easily. After that, on line number 9, you see the Lakeflow Connect pipeline ID. This is how third-party ingestion knows which Lakeflow Connect pipeline to trigger and wait for it to complete. The next 2 ones are interesting. This is for the folks who raised their hands when Krishna was asking, hey, were you the last one to know about it? This is where we ask folks to specify owners and alert recipients. Because if something goes wrong, we need to find the folks who are responsible for this. So now, this is the high-level config. The second is how we define attribute-based access control. This is a very simple attribute-based access control policy that we define on Salesforce data. We give it a nice name, first of all. And then on line number 5, you see a tag that we give to this policy. In this case, it's called SFDC ABAC. Do remember this tag? I'll come back to this in the next slide. On next 3 lines, we have the policy SQL. This one is a pretty straightforward one. What it is doing is it is a simple geofence that makes sure that only your employees in Europe region can see Europe data. So let's say you are an employee working from a beach in Hawaii, and you try to query this data, it would be like, no, not today. So now you know how ABAC works. This is your final configuration. This configuration specifies how we bring each data set in. In this case, this is the opportunity table from Salesforce. You could do a lot of different things over here. You could define the annotations that you want to apply on each table. Do you see that line number 4? It's the same tag as you saw on the last slide. As soon as you have this tag over here, this table is automatically enrolled in ABAC, and only your Europe employees would be able to see the data in Europe region. Then we could specify things like row filters, because you don't really want folks to see the deleted data, right? Also, you can specify a lot of different data checks. These could be as simple as, hey, my table should not really be empty. Or these could go a little bit sophisticated. You could say things like this column should be unique. Or you could go one step up. Or you could basically write your own SQL checks. After that, we can define our own columns that you want to ingest. You could specify what the data type is, whether or not it is a partition. And you can also define your own definition, the one that you see in the last line, if you want to have a custom redaction rule. So this was about how the third-party ingestion works by simply writing configs. As soon as we did that, we started going towards the next stage. We call this the space age of data ingestion. We are inching closer to this, but we are not there yet. Because the truth is, the future of third-party ingestion might not even be just third-party systems. We are talking about ingesting data from Delta shares, S3 buckets, OLTP databases, and so on. We would want to have better access control through RBAC, resource-based access control, and PBAC, purpose-based access control. If you want to learn more about what PBAC is, there is another talk from data platform team that dives just into this topic. Next up, we want to make change management as easy as possible. Think about AI agents who would do this for you, whether it is adding new config, adding a new column, a new table, or even a new ingestion altogether. And finally, real-time ingestion is also on the horizon. We want to do lightning-fast data ingestion by using declarative pipelines, which is a product offered by Databricks. So now you've gone through it all. I'll give you a very quick recap on what all ages we have been through. Stone Age, where we didn't really have a lot of tools. We were stitching things together, writing brittle scripts, and trying to make sure that we have the good data. We added Lakeflow Connect and Unity Catalog on top of it to make sure that when we were ingesting data, we were doing it the right way. That led us to the Bronze Age, where we had good data, we had easier ingestion, but that created the PII problem. You could now easily get in PII and secrets into your lakehouse. We use data classification library and secret redaction library built by a trust and safety team to make sure that your secrets never land in your lakehouse. That brought us to the Iron Age. This is where we had good data, we had clean data, we had classified data. But our visibility problem was not solved. Everyone could see everything. That's where we used attribute-based access control to ingest data and still make sure that folks see only what they're supposed to. And that's what led us to the modern age of data ingestion. When we were at modern age, we thought we have all of these tools. Can we actually make it easier for folks to use these? And that's where we created the platform called third-party ingestion. As soon as we did that, we reach the space age, which is age beyond SaaS ingestion. So with this, I would like to wrap up my talk. But before I do that, I would like to leave you with some takeaways. Think beyond just moving data from point A to point B, or from your SaaS system to your data lake when it comes to third-party ingestion. Ingestion isn't just about bringing data in. It's about doing it in a way that is secure, scalable, but more important than that, it is reusable across your entire organization. Ask yourself this question: how can you build tools that would make the right way the default way, or they would make it very, very difficult to do the wrong thing? How can you leverage the primitives that Databricks already gives you? Unity Catalog, Lakeflow Connect, data classification, attribute-based access control, and use all of that to create an abstraction so that your organization can move fast and still trust your data. With that, I would like to thank you all for attending this talk. If you liked our talk, our data platform team is giving additional talks. I would highly recommend checking those out. And with that, we have some time left. If you want to discuss more on third-party ingestion, we would just be right outside. Please come and catch us. Thank you.